AIT Studios in Abuja, Nigeria. This is the O&M Sunday Show with Obiora and Mamode Akuga.
Hello out there. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and it's time once again for the O&M Sunday Show. My name is Mamode Akuga, and I'm really excited to be back here again to talk to you about so many important things happening within the Federal Republic of Nigeria. These most definitely are very interesting times. So much is happening in Nigeria that a lot of Nigerians, groaning under the heavy burden from the difficult economic crunch that we're going through. A lot of them are beginning to ask themselves, what is happening in Nigeria? Is it the Nigeria that we used to know? Is it Nigeria that everybody wanted to be so proud to say, I am a Nigerian, whether you are Igbo, Yoruba, or Hausa? The things that are happening in Nigeria now is definitely putting a question mark in the minds of so many Nigerians, whether or not this is the old Nigeria that we used to know, the Nigerians that a lot of our leaders fought for to remain as one indivisible entity. Well, we're going to talk more about that later on, but as you know, it's the O&M show, so it's not just the M that is on the show, the O is also on the show today. Obiora.
Glad to know you're with us this Sunday afternoon on your show, the O&M Late Show. And like Mamode said, we're going to talk about that Nigeria that looks so strange to a lot of old Nigerians. Every person you speak to says, I've never seen anything like this since I was born. And you start wondering, what have they not seen? But you don't even need to, except you're coming from outer space. That's the only time you can start saying, what is it that they have not seen? You see, you go out every day in Nigeria today and you hear heartbreaking stories about survival for the ordinary Nigerian. Just yesterday, I went to the market and I was looking for my customer who would, at all times, I would just sit down in the market and he runs all over the place for me. A young Hausa, enterprising Hausa young man. And I couldn't find him. And I was asking what happened. They said he had gone back to the village. He couldn't survive. What he was doing in the market, he could no longer do because, according to them, very few customers come. At the end of the day, you don't even make enough to pay for the shop. You hear heartbreaking stories. I heard yesterday also about a furniture maker. I don't know what they call them, cabinet maker. They call them a whole sort of it, but he makes furniture in the market. What happened? He has also gone to the village, but before he went to the village, he just couldn't stay in Abuja anymore. Because first of all, there were no customers. He couldn't pay his children's school fees. 3 weeks ago, just before the exams, the final exams for the children, his kids were driven out of school. All entreaties, all abego did not work. The kids did not take part in the examination. They were not allowed. And in frustration, the man almost committed suicide. But people prevailed on him. He packed his bags and went to the village, at least to be able to. Yeah. I mean, the stories are heartbreaking.
Yes. Obiora, on top of all that very difficult economic situation, is that you now begin to, the stories that cut across in Nigeria. I remember when I was going to school as, a young child, I always looked forward to when I could walk with my other colleagues. We had a driver to take us to school, but we like to escape and just take a walk. And you see these Fulani herdsmen with their cows, never looked for trouble. Everything was nice, no fight, no killings. But, you know, what you hear now is, you know, the killings that are taking place with the headsmen, you know, and I said these headsmen have been around for a long time, but these killings were never, what changed? Something has changed.
I think what changed is the body language of the president and our leaders. You know, we are looking at leaders today who see a lot of criminality going on, and they just behave as if nothing is happening, and it gives impetus to people, criminals, to wicked people, to troublemakers, you know, to just key in, you know, and just
continue to make trouble.
Okay, Mamode, look at what happened in Niger State last Friday, for instance.
Okay, the Suleja incident.
Yeah.
Yes.
That some Muslims woke up and said that the Christians cannot worship on a Friday. That is a special day for them.
It is unbelievable. And, you know, for me, after an incident like that, that is very, very serious, nothing has come out of the presidency. You know, and, you know, I said this some time ago that, you know, things happen when we had the Agatu crisis.
Yeah.
You know, and the president just refused to speak. He just kept quiet, kept mum.
The Enugu massacre.
Exactly. I mean, the other day, 5 policemen were killed in the United States. The president cut short his visit, went there. I mean, it's what kind of leaders do we have in Nigeria? That things happen, they don't care, they remain in the villa, quiet, as if all is well. Hello, Mr. President, all is not well with Nigeria. And you better get up and start addressing these problems before Nigeria itself goes into anarchy.
You know, someone said that he didn't know whether the president and the APC are looking forward to a Nigeria when they are gone. Whether there will still be a Nigeria when they are gone. Whether they are the ones insinuating it, that is questionable. I don't believe they are. But what are you doing to show that you have a strong resolve that these things don't happen?
Yes, and then you can keep Nigeria together. Remember when Mr. President came in, the first appointments, you know, I stood on the side of Mr. President a little to say, hey, wait, I believe in a country where merit, you know, takes preeminence over everything. You know, but I also remember that this is Africa, this is Nigeria. We are still trying to build a country. You cannot exclude people. You have to give people a sense of belonging. Nigerians have been crying out, hey, Mr. President, your appointments are lopsided. And there is no attempt to remedy the situation.
No, rather, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. And that is why a lot of people talk out. You know, when the president came, we dug into his body language positively.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people got scared about more corruption. Some people we heard started returning money. Some people leaving the country because of the positive body language
of Mr. President.
But today we are seeing another kind of body language, negative body language of the president.
Even in the fight against corruption.
Yeah, and everybody is just saying that, yes, we know you don't agree with these things. Yes, we know you don't support it. But your body language is not telling us that.
Yes.
You know, your body language is telling us something else. And that is why some people are taking advantage of this negative body language, you know, to be committing a lot of crimes in the country, and nothing is happening. And it is important, like Mamode said, everything is not well. The president needs to hear this. His officials need to hear this, because Turkey is a clear example of what happens when those that are leading seem to be a little deaf. You know, because yes, everybody is saying that, oh, there shouldn't have been a coup in Turkey. But after 2-3 days, people are sitting down to say, could the president and the leaders in Turkey, could they have contributed to creating that scenario for a coup in Turkey?
You know, Obiora, I flew in from Port Harcourt into Abuja this morning. And, you know, one of the papers, incidentally, which is with me now, Vanguard newspaper, and it was on the Turkey failed coup. And the headline was, Nigerians will resist any attempt to remove Buhari, APC governors. And the fellow was sitting close to me, saw that I was reading, I was looking at it, and he said to me, are you so sure about that? And
that they will hit the street.
Yeah, that Nigerians will jump to the streets to say this. Are you so sure about that? People who haven't been able to eat, are you so sure? And he left it at that, So for me, that put a big question mark. And right in that flight, the usual thing, Obiora, the pilot will say, look, we are 32,000 feet above sea level, blah, 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 blah. It was different this morning, and this was on an aero contractor's flight from Port Harcourt to Abuja. Instead of all that 32,000 feet, we're flying at this. Yes, the pilot said, look, I don't know who is in this aircraft. Maybe there's somebody from government. Maybe you have your brother or a sister who is a minister. I don't know, but please, the road to my village is better than the Abuja runway. When we land, you will see how bumpy the Abuja runway is. We've been telling them in FAN, we've been telling them in the aviation ministry that this is very bad and it could lead to some kind of accident on the runway, but nobody's listening. So please tell them. That was the message on the aircraft this morning from the pilot, from the captain.
Mamo, the problem right now is that in a lot of spheres, in a lot of departments in the country, things are going wrong and nothing is being done. And you're wondering, when are we going to see this government and these present leaders do something about helping Nigeria? For instance, the price of fuel has gone up. Okay?
The price of everything.
No, fuel has gone. I'm talking about fuel. And then electricity is not there. So even for Nigerians to buy diesel or buy fuel and power their generators, there's a problem in that area. You would have thought that since the price of all this went up, that the government, we're not saying give us money now, will do something to ensure that the electricity is constant, that people are not exposed to that part of hardship.
Obiora, let's leave all this. The problems of Nigeria, it will take us the whole day to begin to talk about it, but Nigerians deserve better. This government came in promising change, positive change. So let them
let's quickly look at the headlines. Yes. APC governors drum up support for PMB sue for patients, and it said economy. APC governors drum up support for PMB sue for patients. That's Leadership Sunday, and it gives you a picture of the bigwigs in the APC campaigning in Benin yesterday.
Yeah. And those people come. I listen to the campaigns, the PDP, flag off, APC. Those candidates in Benin. What you guys are doing is at best shameful. You need to stay with the issues. I listen to the PDP candidate trying to talk to people, and after a while he burst out into one song, which at best was describing the governor, in words that I would rather not use. So they should stay with the issues. What are you going to do for the people? And
this is the time for people of Edo State to actually look at this campaign with their two eyes open.
Yes.
We've seen our experience with the APC and all the promises. So I don't know how they are going to do it, but ensure that whether it's PDP, whether it's APC, whether it's Labour, whether it's APGA or whatever party, can somebody sit them down and bring pen and paper and let them in very graphic ways tell you what they want to do? Because all these promises, all this change, all this that and that is not making sense. So in Edo, this is your time. Open your two eyes and let the candidates, don't vote for parties. Don't vote because it's APC. If it's Labour that you think that will deliver, vote for Labour. If it's APGA, let's for the first time try to
look at individuals.
I mean, look at individuals. And
because the parties have
they failed us. They failed us severally.
Yeah,
anyway, this day says the electricity tariff judgment threatens 300 billion naira banking loans.
Yeah.
And PDP chairmanship battle begins. APC governors seek backing for Buhari.
Okay.
And so many others.
Obiora, today we're going to talk about Mr. President's appointments. There are people who say the appointments
and the federal character.
Yes, yeah.
Question.
The federal character.
Yes.
People who say it's lopsided. Some people say it's not. The president.
And some people say the president has a right
to appoint his own
whoever from wherever.
Exactly.
You know, so we'll find out whether it's constitutional
or not.
Yes, we have a lawyer.
Yeah.
We have a lawyer in the house. OBUNIKE OHAEGBU.
Yes.
Is in the house.
Yes, we also have joining us too a journalist, Charles Ononoju. If we are able later, before we round up, we should be able to go across to Yenagoa online to talk to Udengs Eradiri in Yenagoa as well.
So, okay, don't go away. Your show continues in a moment. Just sit back. We are glad you're with us this afternoon.
Are you watching Nigeria's biggest late night show?
I think the government is doing its best.
Buhari himself is an issue. Just as the Buhari organization has made Goodluck Jonathan an issue.
We have laws, we have institutions set up to fight corruption.
Advocacy for the Chief of Health is born out of what they symbolize.
The average Nigerian wants to know, what do you have for him?
Panika was with us for a while.
What happened?
I think he came on a journey and discovered that we are too transparent for him.
A banking license was cancelled in one day, and a license was cancelled in one day.
When I was retrenched, it became worse. Sometimes to even find food to give to the children was hell.
Don't tell us you want a nation that will be the most powerful black nation on the earth. We all want it. How are we going to get it?
O&M Late Show and O&M Sunday Show with Obiora Ilo and Mamudia Kruger. Tuesdays, Fridays, 11 p.m. and on Sunday, 2 p.m. Are you watching Nigeria's biggest late night show?
I think the government is doing its best.
Buhari himself is an issue. Just as the Buhari organization has made Goodluck Jonathan an issue.
We have laws, we have institutions set up to fight corruption.
Advocacy for the Chief of Health is born out of what they symbolize.
The average Nigerian wants to know, what do you have for him?
Panika was with us for a while.
What happened?
I think he came on a journey and discovered that we are too transparent for him.
A banking license was cancelled in one day, and a license was cancelled in one day.
When I was retrenched, it became worse. Sometimes to even find food to give to the children was hell.
Don't tell us you want a nation that will be the most powerful black nation on the earth. We all want it. How are we going to get it?
O&M Late Show and O&M Sunday Show with Obiora Ilo and Mamudia Kruger. Tuesdays, Fridays, 11 p.m. and on Sunday, 2 p.m.
You're watching the O&M Sunday Show, and today we are looking at appointments in Nigeria and the federal character question. You know, is it constitutional for appointments to be done in a particular way? Is it constitutional for appointments not to be done in a particular way? And we have two very many Nigerians to talk about it. OBUNIKE OHAEGBU is a legal practitioner. He's in the studio, and we have Charles Ononoju, journalist.
Yes.
An
author
analyst. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
You know, there's this talk about the president's appointments coming from a particular geopolitical zone. But that's not actually our concern today. What we want to look at is, does the president have a right to actually appoint whoever he wants to appoint from wherever he wants to appoint them from? What does the law say? And politically, is it politically correct? So let me start with you, OBUNIKE. You're a lawyer. Of course, the Constitution makes provision for what we call the Federal Character Commission. And for so many years, I understand that part of their job is to show equity and balance in the appointment of people to positions in the federal government. Can you educate us on exactly what the Constitution says about the powers of that commission and the powers of the president?
Thank you very much, Obiora. I think I will start first from, I will divide your question into two. Is what the president doing constitutionally right, and then is it politically correct? I'm sure you understand that these are two different questions.
Yes.
The first one, the first thing you do is to look at section 14, subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitution, where it's under the fundamental objectives and directive principles of governance. That's where you have section 14, subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitution. It talks, in fact, wonderful provisions about federal character. As a matter of fact, even the federal character was mentioned, if you get to 147, where it talks about the appointment of ministers. But there's one thing you will understand there. I don't want to talk about the justiciability of the provisions in section 14, subsection 4, because as the national coordinator of the PDP Patriotic Vanguard, the first reaction I actually had was to, could we challenge what the president was doing in court? So when I looked at these all the provisions as a lawyer, you see in section 14, in section 147, section 14, wonderful provisions about federal character. But if you get to section 14, you see it talks about federal character, and then it said, provided, there is a proviso there, that the president in appointing ministers must get one person from each state of the federation. You see, the other one is that, very good provisions. Then, to show the importance of the federal character, the Federal Character Commission was established, and is one of the agencies mentioned in section 153 of the 1999 Constitution. Wonderful provisions. But where is the problem? If you get to the Federal Character Commission, the act establishing the federal character, in fact, I have it here. If you want me to read it directly, I will read it.
Yeah, read it. Yeah. It would be nice. Read it.
So that it wouldn't look as if it's coming from OBUNIKE or OHAEGBU. If you look at section 1, subsection 3 of the act establishing the Federal Character Commission, it states the commission shall not be subject to the direction, control, or supervision of any other authority or person in the performance of its functions under this act other than the president. Section 4 made wonderful provisions for the functions of the federal character that is supposed to implement whatever federal character provisions you have in the 1999 Constitution. And then he said the functions of the commission shall, 1, to work out equitable formula. To work out equitable formula subject to the approval of the president.
Okay. In other words, it is the president's prerogative to determine what is equitable formula.
My own definition is that going by community reading of all these statutory provisions, the president is the embodiment and the definition of federal character. Whatever he says is the federal character is the federal character. So whether it's politically correct is a different thing. All of us have an understanding of what we believe is the federal character. Unfortunately, none of our views will be acceptable to the Federal Character Commission. I believe that if you go to the National Assembly, the leadership of the APC, 6, the practice is that each person from one geopolitical zone, there is no person from the southeast. I believe that it does not comply with my own understanding of the federal character, but my own understanding is not applicable in this matter. I believe that if you go to the military, the security apparatus of this country, there is nobody from the south. Is one of the geopolitical zones. In my own opinion, I don't think it conforms with the federal character. But the federal character says the opinion of the president is the one that matters. So I have to keep my opinion to myself. So I believe, for instance, I was discussing, that was on Wednesday or Thursday last week in Enugu. I met an old friend of mine who had something to do with the DSS. Let me use DSS as an example. The person was telling me that they have 60 directorates. In that 60 directorates, you have 36 for states. 36 for states. Out of that 36, you have 10 national directorates. Then you have directorates heading the institutions. Out of the entire 60, you have one person from Enugu heading one of the 60 directorates. I didn't verify that. That was what he told me. And he equally told me that the person that is supposed to be a director, another person that is supposed to be a director to head the medical services in the headquarters, has not been confirmed the director. In my opinion, where you have 60 directorates, you have only one person from the southeast. In my opinion, it does not conform with the federal character.
Okay, Charles.
Yeah.
OBUNIKE says that, you know, his opinion is irrelevant in these matters because the law and the act set on the Federal Character Commission has defined it in such a way that the president is the embodiment of the definition of federal character. As Nigerians who voted for Mr. President, with what we are seeing, he talked about the security architecture of Nigeria today that has nobody from the southeast, has somebody, one person from the south and somebody else from the southwest. Every other organization, whether it's the DSS, National Security Advisor, police, immigration, prisons, every other person comes from the other part, the northern part of the country. For you, even though the act itself says you don't have a right to complain, would you see this as equitable in terms of the definition of the act, that the Federal Character Commission should formulate an equitable a formula, you know, for sharing these offices?
Yeah, well, for me, you see, at the end of the day, everything boils down to question of governance, deliverables, you know, improving the life of the people. Essentially, a constitution, like you said, is constitutionalizing the sentiment, the aspiration, the tradition, and of course, what people aspire, and their understanding of good governance. This whole thing is what is brought into the constitutional process. So if constitutional process does not reflect this, actually it is it requires some changes, and of course changing is part of the process of constitutionalization. In my view, like you have just said, yes, for good reasons. The idea of representation of regions, of various ethnic groups, religions, and all that, has been a long-standing tradition. But in practice, to be very sincere, it appears this tradition have not served the interest of the nation very well. Because we have seen representation cuts across. We have seen all this. We have seen the local government. We have seen the state government. But the question is, in over 50 years of Nigerian independence, in which this equitability, so to say, has been clearly reflected in our national life, has it delivered? Up 50 years, we are still talking about water. We are still talking about light. These are supposed to be things forgone. It's supposed to be taken for granted. But you could see there are still core campaign issues. I will enhance power supply. I will enhance water supply, power supply. I will stabilize the power system. These are still current questions. So the fact that we have had a system in which this equitability in contest, in a quote, has been clearly put in place, and yet we have not overcome these basic challenges, mean there are still something to be done. But in my view, perception is also everything. Perception is very important. When a political leader is given this kind of powers, the superiority of his views is that he will continue not only to reflect the reality, but also to reflect the perception. Because the line dividing perception and reality in a social system is very thin. It will not be reasonable to suggest that only one section of the people can produce good and decent and honest people. It's not possible. It is not possible that only one section of the country can produce all the criminals you can find. It's not possible. I think the president has a prerogative to go beyond conventions. If he is only dealing with where he is familiar, he is challenged to go beyond the area he is familiar. He is challenged to understand Nigeria as his whole constituency. So in my view, it is important to respect the sentiment, to respect the perception that equitable distribution of political offices, finding the best, except there is a conclusive evidence that there is no group of Nigerians that cannot produce a decent, honest, hardworking, and competent personnel, except that can be found, except that can be confirmed, then it will be accepted that only one section of the country is capable of producing those who are honest enough, competent enough, efficient enough to manage the affairs of Nigeria. In spite of what the Constitution says, like the Constitution has rightly vested the powers to do this to the presidency, it implies a superior understanding. It implies a vision. And this vision may be the basis on which he was elected. And he must demonstrate this broad vision, this broad accommodation, this broad consensus that is implicit in his election. Otherwise, he will be, because the reason why he was elected is he is not as ordinary as every other Nigerian. Meaning that he has some superior understanding of issues. And this superior understanding of issues cannot be concentrated on a place in which he is naturally familiar. If his view does not extend beyond where he is familiar, then he is not anything other than ordinary Nigerian and may not actually deserve the presidency.
Okay. You know, when you started answering my question, you said that the question was twofold. You talked about constitutionality and you talked about being politically correct. And Charles has started talking about this correctness, you know. Looking at it from the political angle, what should the president or even a governor, because even when we say federal character and equity, it moves from the federal, even to the states, even to the local governments. What do you think should guide someone who finds himself in this type of position of trust, you know, where he's holding in trust the leadership for the rest of the citizens?
I think first and foremost, I will equally start from the Constitution as well as a lawyer, because the Constitution.
You want to go back to the Constitution?
Yeah, the Constitution is very clear. The Constitution does not just say federal character and leave it at that. The Constitution is very clear on what the federal character is meant to achieve, and that should serve as a guide to anybody who is the president. The Constitution said the federal character should be in such a manner as to recognize the diversity of the people within its area of authority, and the need to promote a sense of belonging and loyalty among all the people of the federation.
But looking at that,
can you now say that the appointments we have so far, even at the state levels, can you now say that those appointments could motivate what the Constitution has stipulated?
No, in your view, what do you think?
In my view, I don't think so. I don't think so. And a lot of people, I was discussing with a friend yesterday, he was asking me, even this appointment, what if the person is from your area, what is the person going to do for you? I smiled. I smiled because I remembered that the moment Ononeme became the Minister of Works, the road from Lokoja to Uromi, the dualization immediately started, because he had to dualize the road from Lokoja to his place. In fact, from Babalada, the road was there before. I think the contract was there before he came in. But the moment he came in as the minister, activities of getting that particular road connected to Edo State started, and those of us who applied that road to our areas started benefiting from that. So are you telling me that if Ononeme was from, let's say, Oka, that the road from Enugu to Oka, that it's non-existent as we speak now, there is no federal road, because people were talking about rehabilitation of that road. Are you telling me if that is the road he flies in to Enugu every day and travels by road to Oka as the Minister of Works, that road will still be in the state as it is? In my view, I don't think so. So we have certain things to benefit when you have your people there. A lot of people called me during, sorry to make reference, during Meto's trial. Why was he on handcuff? Are you telling me if the head of prisons is from Imo State, that people would have complained? The first thing you do when you then get people involved is that you alienate them. from what you are doing. You alienate them, which is not even fair to you as the leader, because you need to accommodate everybody. Because with the sentiments, I traveled to the East last week. Whenever you open a radio program, they will say, they want to kill Ike Ekweremadu because they want to pass grazing, they don't want it to be there and all that. The truth is that it may not be the fact, but that is the sentiment. And why is that the sentiment? Because the people from the Southeast believe that Senator Ike Ekweremadu is the only person they have in government, and they want to remove him. And a local publisher called me and said that he heard that when they were campaigning for the Senate presidency, that a former senator from Lagos approached Ike for support for APC candidate, and Ike said he doesn't have problems with that, he will do that if APC will make pronouncement as a policy that their SGF will come from the Southeast, and Minister of Works will come from the Southeast, and another key minister will come from the Southeast. And the man left and never came back. I said, I'm not sure. I don't have that access to Ike Ekweremadu. But that is the sentiment that is going on in the Southeast. And they don't have people who are occupying those positions. So the impression is that what the Constitution expects of them to feel part of the Federation is not there.
Now, Charles, clearly, there are a lot of Nigerians who are unhappy with the president's, appointments since he came into office. Let's take, for instance, that the Constitution has made it impossible for anybody to do anything about it.
To go to court?
To go to court, to do anything about it. How do Nigerians get the president to see issues from their own perspective? Because clearly the president is seeing all these issues from his own perspective. By the way he has carried on, from the first appointments he made, the first 42 appointments that he made, there were complaints already after those appointments. After that, he has made more, and the general impression is that he's not responding to public, reaction to what he has done. So, how can the public get him to see things from their own perspective?
Yeah, first and foremost, let me say very frankly, like the lawyer suggested, when a minister is appointed public officer, he tends to address the concern of his people. Well, if this is the intention of the Constitution, then for me, the Constitution needs considerable adjustment, because a public office should be first and foremost to serve the interests of the country. If Mr. Onaneme dealt with the road to his house simply because it concerns him most, then he is not worth the office of the Minister of Works of Federal Republic of Nigeria, because he should have started from where the challenge is most important, whether in Zamfara, whether in Kebbi, whether in Imo State or wherever. So if public office holding, if federal character is designed to appoint public officers who will protect the narrow interests of their people, because in that context, you can't also ignore the man when he protects his own personal interest. Because if you ask him to stand from the interest of his people, he can as well, by the power of logic, start from himself, his wife, his children, and before the rest of the community.
But Charles, yes. but Charles, so that you don't miss the point completely. Yes. Even the Constitution recognizes that there is a need, because it's spelled out in the Constitution, to have a sense of belonging, yes, and loyalty, yes, to the Nigerian project.
Absolutely.
So even that mere action can engender loyalty to the Nigerian project and give a sense of belonging.
Yes, but the point I'm making is the Constitution, like the lawyer have read, is very clear. We should do equitable representation. Equitable representation is to serve the larger, of course, the components of Nigeria are important. Yes. Nigeria is not an abstraction, it's a reality. And the reality must begin from somewhere. Reality has starts. So in my view, I completely agree that people appointed as representative or reflection of equitable distribution of public offices, of course, cannot ignore the sentiments of where they come from. But in any case, it must be clearly understood that these are clearly burden bearers of Nigeria first. And in as much as every part of this country is a Nigerian, every part of the country is his catchment area, in my view. And then on the question of how to embolden the president to move out more, of course, it's very important. We understood this president ran office on the basis he wants to revitalize the economy, he wants to enhance security, and he wants to end corruption. These are very worthy things. But the question is it only in one group of people that people who can join him in prosecuting this agenda can be found? That is not proper. That is dangerous because it leads us to dangerous thinking of superior race, superior ethnic group, superior religious group. And these things are reality. It may not matter for anybody who is bothered about competence. You don't mind? For me, to be very honest, it might be better to have a stable electricity in Aba, in Onitsha, than to have 100 men appointed as ministers from Igbo land. It might for me, it may make a lot of sense to have stable power supply in Newe, stable power supply in Onitsha, stable power supply in Aba, than to have 100 men appointed minister from Igbo land. But
from what OBUNIKE said earlier, how do you get that stable power in Owerri? And if you don't have anybody to speak up for you when things are being discussed and projects
and
prioritized.
Yeah.
If you don't have anybody to speak up for you, how do you get it?
Yeah, the question is, the president, like I said, need to broaden his view. He need to broaden his understanding. Of course, he is dealing perhaps with an area he is more familiar. But like I said, the mandate of his presidency is to build bridges, create accommodation among Nigerians, generate consensus. And you cannot generate consensus if a certain group, certain persons, certain areas are excluded. It is not possible to generate a consensus in spite of how superior your vision is, in spite of how attractive your vision is, in spite of how honest your vision is. It is important to create an atmosphere of inclusion in which every section of the country, like we are talking about security architecture, it is actually dangerous to have at the apex our security structure a non-inclusion of key stakeholders, because the perception that we are different, we are of this stock is real. It may not have any functional input into final policy making or final policy delivery, but the perception is there, and it has a lot to do with how people connect to your policy, how people connect to your administration, how people connect to your program. If people are not connected to your program, no matter how well intentioned it might be, it may not serve any purpose, because at the end of the day, it is targeted at them. So the question is, there is a need for inclusion, if for no reason, for the purpose of perception and connecting with the entire people. It is important to be inclusive, because if you are talking about security architecture, in which a certain significant group is completely left out.
It's not just security.
Yes.
Let me also introduce another very key issue that a lot of people are bothered about. They've gradually seen even all the areas that generate money for Nigeria are now being controlled by people from the north. The number one is the NNPC, which of course was being the Minister of State from Delta. He's been moved aside as chairman, and somebody from now has been brought in. The second revenue earner for Nigeria is Nigerian Customs. Of course, it's head by Ali. And the third revenue earner for Nigeria is Nigerian Ports Authority, of course, where you see that the 40-year-old Hadiza Bala Usman has also been appointed. So a lot of people are also very worried about that.
Okay, gentlemen, but let's, taking cognizance of what Mahmoud has said, is this something that is new? Is it there a possibility? Because some people have said that maybe the North over these years, over the last 6 years, may have felt that they were not carried along, and they're making up for lost time. So is this something that is coming from the past, something that is occasioned by maybe how the immediate past leadership had conducted themselves in the appointment of people to positions?
I don't think so, because, he just made reference to 3 institutions. The question you ask yourself, these people that took over from these institutions, who did they take over from? The man in customs, who did he take over from? The MPA, who did she take over from? Or who is she taking over from? The man, the man in NNPC, who is he actually taking over from? Okay, somebody handed over to the minister from Minister of State. The Minister of State, who did he take over from? From which zone? So you see that it's not as if these things have not been there. They have been there. But it's just that probably because of some issues now, people are now beginning to be more conscious of them.
What issues are you talking about?
For instance, if you look at the leadership, the entire leadership of Nigeria, with the exception of His Excellency, the Deputy Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who else is there that you can say that he will be involved if there is an emergency for issues, for allocation of wealth and all that of Nigeria to be discussed, even security? Who is the person from the southeast that will be there? Who is the person from the south that will be there? People are beginning to be conscious. It was not like this in the past. It was not like this. My friend talked about equitable distribution. I don't have problems with that. But you may be surprised to discover that a state in the northeast, the entire federal road in a state in the northeast could be more than the entire roads, federal roads in the southeast. I have a friend. I worked in an institution where we had colleagues from other zones. Somebody will tell me that I know this guy is from our place, but you have to drive over 150 kilometers from his state, probably because of landmark, to get to his zone. I say federal or state. It's a federal road. Where are you going to get that kind of road within a federal road within the southeast? The small kilometer road, Amish, the Amish people as we speak are taking up arms against our federal legislators, because they are saying they are there in Abuja. Why is the road not being done? Where the ones are in Adamawa, in Yola and all that are being done? So I agree. Don't put anybody from the southeast in the equitable.
No, but in the National Assembly, you have people from the southeast, south, everybody. If they are not representing their people well, do you blame Buhari for that?
I think if somebody else had said this, I would just have smiled. The SGF was telling the National Assembly that, let me tell you, all you've got in the zonal interventions are not going to be executed. Point blank. Who determines at whose discretion on which road to be done? If the SGF has said, if we are going to do 10-kilometer road in the northeast, we'll do 10-kilometer road in the southeast, we'll do 10-kilometer road in the northwest. If he had said that, of course, everybody would have been, what parameter, what yardstick are you going to use to execute that? So if as a legislator, you have made efforts to get some of these things included in the budget and it's not executed, what are you going to do? Heaven will not fall. So I think we should more be talking about what is the way out.
Yes. Charles, before we go, but what is the security implication of this perception on even national unity of Nigeria? I mean, when you say perception, a lot of people will even disagree with you. There are people who will say it's reality because they point to the statistics of the appointments and it's visible. And they point to the statements by the president when he was asked, and he said, look, I will work first for the people who voted 95% before I work for 5%. Before I work for 5%. So his body language, his voice, his actual words,
the appointment,
yes, have reflected what he's thinking deep inside his heart. Now, could this scenario affect national unity and national security?
Yeah, well, if he said he would work for the 9% who voted for him before the 5%, for me, that could be one of those human frailties, one of those human errors. Because ordinarily, you should have started from those who did not even vote for you.
To bring them on board.
You should have the people to reach out, to find out why. What is their perception of me? Is it honest? If the South or the Southeast had perceived him as tribal, ethnic, then it is incumbent on him to make them realize otherwise, that their understanding of him is wrong. So that could be in a fit of human error, and I'm sure in his privacy he will be regretting such statement of working for 95% who voted for him first before the 5% who didn't vote for him.
Okay, we're almost there.
Yes.
We're almost there. So you'll quickly round off.
Okay.
Okay, I think
you see,
what I just want to say is
national security.
If these institutions, like we have said, the Ports Authority, Nigerian Custom, the national security, let's face the fact, if they deliver on the mandate that improves this condition, if they deliver on the mandate. Because if you're talking about security, let me tell you, more Igbos, more Southeast lost more money in the Northwest, in the Northeast, on this security challenge there. Most of them, most people cannot recover from it. Of course, the debt we cannot lose. So there is no group that did not lose quite a lot in that Northeast. So there is no group that do not have a stake in the return of normalcy in the Northeast. I can assure you, in as much as return of normalcy in the Northeast is good for the people in that area, it is good for all Nigerians. So if it is delivered effectively, if the Nigerian Ports Authority delivered effectively, if the Nigerian Maritime Authority delivered effectively, if the Nigerian immigration, in spite of who heads it, deliver to the benefit of all Nigerians, I think it would have fulfilled its mandate, actually, in spite of who runs it.
Okay, I think I will, first of all, I would like to comment on what I think is the way out. But before that, let me quickly point out something so that I will not be misunderstood. On the security issue, don't get me wrong. I've been to Maiduguri, irrespective of the amount of money you as an individual have lost. Thousands of families cannot have access to their homes. You cannot quantify that. See, if anything could be done so that people in the IDP camps should go back to their homes, I mean, that one you cannot even quantify that at all. In a few
sentences, what's the panacea that you're suggesting?
What I'm suggesting is that we'll try to build our institutions, let them be stronger. Like the Federal Character Commission, there is need to look at the act and probably make some amendments. Of course, it's not the kind of amendment we had in Public Complaints Commission where they now have they are now on first line charge. And the next thing they got was an establishment with personnel of 3.something billion. They got 2 billion for their entire budget, and commissioners are getting 25%, and even civil servants are getting 25% of their salary. So what I think is that we need to build our institutions so that the institutions will be strong enough to even withstand any president at all.
And that's how we draw the curtain. Thanks for watching. We'll be talking with OBUNIKE, OHAEGBU, and Charles Ononuju. I'm Obiora Ilo.
And I am Mahmoud Akuga. Unfortunately, we couldn't establish contact with Eradiri Udengs in Yenagoa to take his own insights on this matter. We'll see you again on Tuesday night. At 11 p.m.
11 p.m. See you then.